Welcome to your Geoscope for the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. If you're one of my website subscribers, welcome back to the second part of your forecast. So let's get into your reading for the upcoming Sagittarius lunar eclipse. So just to say that I'm going to try and make the Geoscopes a regular feature of my YouTube channel. So if this is something that you've enjoyed, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button. And if you don't want to miss out on any future forecasts, then just press the bell, hit the bell, so the subscribe button, and you'll be notified if I post any more forecasts. And then website subscribers, I plan to do another set of astrology forecasts for the upcoming solar eclipses, you know, the Cancer Capricorn eclipses that are happening in June and July, so look out for those. But I will be limiting my horoscope forecasts to members of my website. It is absolutely free to join if you haven't already. Just go to astrologysphere.com/subscribe and you can sign up. I don't spam people and I don't sell details on or anything like that. It just means you'll get my newsletter twice a month. Right, so let's see what wisdom and lessons are there for Capricorn during the waning moon cycle that is activated by the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. The cards are quite jumpy. Right, let's have a look. So your first figure out, Capricorn, is Letitia, which is really positive actually. So this suggests that at the time of the lunar eclipse, you will be feeling and focused on your happiness. Letitia is about joy, it's about celebration, it's a really uplifting, expansive kind of energy. So that's really wonderful. And I mean, if we think about the sign of Sagittarius, it is a really happy, optimistic sign. So it's possible that your optimism is starting to return after what has been quite a heavy 6 months. Next out is Fortuna Minor. Now, Fortuna Minor is the kind of almost the lesser benefic. It's got kind of overtures of Venus. If we think of Jupiter as being the greater benefic, and then Venus is the lesser benefic. So this is about support from others, and it's interesting that it's coming up in your 4th house, which is about family connections and people that who feel like home, essentially people that you consider to be part of your extended family. They might not necessarily be blood, they could be a brother from another mother, but there's this definite feeling of support, perhaps even unexpected support from the arena of family and home. Next out is Albus. Now Albus is Mercury in Gemini, so this is air energy. Here we've got fire energy and this is water. So air energy in your 7th house. So this is talking about a blank slate, a fresh start, but it can also be about purity. So where do you need to perhaps consider connections that may not necessarily be serving your kind of higher purpose, if I can put it that way. It might be that there's a need for a little bit of not a reckoning, but a reassessment of who you want to keep as a significant other. 7th house is about significant one-to-one relationships, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a marriage partner. It could be a business partner, like a business manager, or an agent. It could be somebody that you have a business partnership with. Perhaps you've gone into business together. It can also, as I say, be a spouse or a committed partnership. So there's many ways that this energy could work, but it's definitely saying that when it comes to your one-to-one relationships, there may be a need to sort of clear the slate. So perhaps getting rid of resentments, clearing the air on one hand, or perhaps a bit of an inventory when it comes to who you keep close to you, and perhaps who you may want to sort of distance yourself from a little bit. And then your last quadrogram is Via, which is the moon in Cancer. So this is about a journey, but it can also be about your path, so your soul path, where you want to be headed in terms of fulfilling your soul mission or your soul purpose. But it's interesting because it's the only quadrogram that's actually made from only odd or kind of single dots. So it's very much about a straight line or a straight arrow, and it's in your 10th house, which is goals, future aspirations, the direction in which you want to sort of head going into the future. It can be career, it can be public office or public profile, but more than likely it's about soul purpose and marrying this up with your career or vocation. And I think it's saying you need to be quite single-minded in getting clear, basically getting clarity about where you want to be heading, you know, as we move into the second part of 2020. So I'm just going to pause quickly and do the rest of your conversions so that we can populate the rest of the chart, and I'll be back with you in a second. Hi Capricorn, welcome back to your reading. So as you can see, I have taken those first 4 geomantic figures, the mothers, and I have converted them using this conversion table into the daughters and the nieces, and then the final judge and witnesses. So if you're interested in you know, kind of having a go at geomancy, I have provided this particular conversion table as a free download on my website. So just go to astrologysphere.com and you'll see the link to the Geomancy page where you can download this conversion table. Heads up, I'm not using the system that's printed here. This is the kind of easiest system for house allocation. I'm choosing to use the Golden Dawn method. So the 4 mothers we've already put in the cardinal houses, and then the daughters go into the succedent houses and the nieces into the cadent houses. But anyway, let's take a look at your reading to see what we can discern. So here is the casting sheet. As you can see, I have laid out the cards that come from the conversion sheet onto the casting cloth. So let's take a look in more detail. So we've covered the cardinal houses, but it's interesting to see them now in relation to the other figures which have been generated. Now I will say that there seems to be some overlaps between Capricorn, this reading, and the Sagittarius reading. So if I were you, I would go and have a look at Sagittarius too, particularly if you have Sagittarius placements in your chart, because there do seem to be overlaps between these 2 readings. So if we consider that, let's consider where the planets are placed first of all, before we can make any more interpretations. So in your case, Capricorn, we've got Sagittarius in the 12th house. This is where the moon will be, and then we've got the sun in the 12th house. So, and then opposite that in the 3rd house is Mars. So what's really interesting about this 3rd house quadrogram is that it is Rubeus. Now Rubeus is Mars in its nighttime rulership of Scorpio. So this is Mars in its kind of water aspect, and what it tends to do is it tends to arouse or excite the passions, the emotions, in other words. So if you think about Scorpio, you know, there's this sense of still waters run very deep, and if we pair this with the 3rd house, which is self-expression and with communication, as well as, you know, siblings and close relatives and so on, there's this sense of kind of rumbling undertones, basically. So it could be undertones in communication. It could be like passive-aggressive digs between you and, say, a brother or sister. It could also simply be communications or messages coming in that arouse passion, so arouse a strong reaction in you. And that's what this quadrogram seems to be about. I'm just going to read you the keywords for Rubeus so that you get a sense of what I'm talking about. So where is Rubeus? So Rubeus is red, burning, fiery passion, anger, fierceness, danger, violence, vice, vengefulness, zealousness, and deep involvement. So as you can see, it's about things that, you know, kind of cut below, they go below skin, the surface level, and really kind of affect you. And it could be that you say some cutting things to somebody else that really gets under their skin, or it could be vice versa, or it could be a development that crops up that you then learn about. And as I say, this is where the kind of Mars energy, and this is the almost the awakener kind of energy within this particular eclipse, that I think will be a catalyst to other either discoveries or realizations, or to further developments, you know, within the situation. But I think what it does is it really alerts you to the 12th 6th house axis. So really a need to walk your talk, basically, to live in accordance with your kind of beliefs, and to sync up the unconscious mind with your kind of daily rituals and activities. So if we have a look at the moon, this is where the moon in Sagittarius will be. Now the moon in and of itself is about subconscious patterns and behaviors that we're not always necessarily aware of on the surface of everyday life, but which very often drive us. And I think what this symbol, this quadrigram, is saying is that there's a need to really look a bit more closely at some of your unconscious or subconscious beliefs, things you may have inherited from either family, childhood, or from past lives, because this is your kind of connection to all that is. So it's not just family or kind of ancestors, but it's also your connection to the wider collective. So it could be that on some level you're quite, not porous, but that you're picking up on shifts in the collective that are calling for a kind of a blank slate, or for more purity of intention, to the way that we interact, for example, with others, often through things like social media. You know, and it's interesting, we've got this interface here between 11th and the 12th house. So 11th house does tend to be sort of interactions with the collective. That this almost needs to be purified. So it could be, for example, that there's a need for communications of all sorts, including through social media, to be cleansed, to be kind of to have any form of interference removed. It could be interference here removed. So, you know, you could do some kind of ritual, and there are quite a lot of people have done quite a lot of transmissions and activations around this particular issue. So communications of all sorts now you may need to sort of clear them, so that your connection to the collective is purer. I think that's a good way of putting it, because albus means white. So, and we've got Mercury in Gemini, so a purer connection to the collective, and an interface between the sort of social and the personal. So this is your interface between the two. And then on this end, we've got the Sun and Venus, as I said, and here we've got Puer, which is interesting, because this is the daytime iteration of Mars. So we've got Mars in its nighttime iteration in the 3rd house, and then in the 6th house we've got Mars in Aries. So this is fire, this is water. So I think what this is pointing to is a need for proactivity, taking proactive action when it comes to integrating whatever is happening in the subconscious, or the sort of the realm of the dreamscape, or this sort of the spiritual collective realm, into everyday life and work, as well as habits. You know, this is your schedules, this is your work environment. It's you know, what you do every day on a regular basis, basically. So if you have become a little bit apathetic, or kind of stuck in a rut, I think what it's saying is you need to sort of jumpstart. Use the energy of this eclipse to jumpstart your routines, so that they're more in alignment. I think that's a good way of putting this. So I'm just going to read to you the keywords for Puer. So this is about beginnings, it's about conflict, it's about competition, it's about masculine active energy, so also purpose, focus and drive. It's about warriors, sons, servants, pages and bachelors. So you could see an overriding theme here as being one of new beginnings, because we have this initiation energy here, and we've got the blank slate here. So I think it's really saying that this axis in your life needs to be almost reset. So that's something to bear in mind. You know, what messages come up over the next 2 weeks that are pointing to what needs to be reset along the sort of mind-body axis. And then the other thing to say about this is that we've got a couple of echoes or kind of mirroring happening, which is interesting because this is kind of Gemini energy, so it's twin energy or kind of bicorporeal energy. So we've got Albus twice. We've got it repeated in the 12th and the 7th house, so this is really emphasizing connections and where we interface with others, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in a collective kind of realm. And then the other overlap, let me see, I think it was Fortuna Major, came out quite a lot. So Puer also came out twice, actually. It came out in your 2nd house too. So somehow there's a connection to work and to earned income, because the 2nd house is your sort of earned income and sort of possessions, physical possessions, but also your talents, skills and abilities. And then the 6th house can be about, you know, what you do for a living every day, your work environment, work colleagues, that kind of thing. So there seems to be a link. Perhaps it's saying that you need to find new forms of income, or you need to derive your income in a new way. And that could be why we're getting veer here, that you kind of headed in a new direction career-wise. That could be what this is about. There's an internal shift happening that is kind of making you change direction a little bit. That could be what's going on here. So then the other thing to say is that in terms of the outcome of your reading, we've got the left and right witness, and then this is the sort of overall outcome, Fortuna Major, which is really positive, I have to say. It's really about good fortune, success, serendipity, so that wonderful magical energy that you have when everything just seems to go right, you know. But to get there might require a little bit of letting go, a sort of a process of letting go. And the reason that I say this is that we've got Castor, which is your sign Saturn, but in Capricorn, so in your sign and your planet. But Castor generally is about restrictions and limitations. So I think it's saying there's a need for restructuring, that we have to sort of work within certain limitations, whether that be lockdown or whether that be financial limitations, for example, or circumstances, that there needs to be on some level a realization of what isn't possible, and perhaps a cutting back of options as a result of that. So seeing it as a kind of reduction of options, which will help you to get really clear about the direction of travel. So eliminating options that are not really viable. It might also be important as this, I don't know whether I mentioned this earlier, but Saturn is retrograde and will be moving back into your sign of Capricorn later on during its retrograde season. So it's possible that when it does that, it will reactivate or bring your attention to certain unresolved or leftover lessons or issues that need to be finalized from the last 2.5 years when Saturn was traveling through Capricorn, that just need to be kind of sewn up before it moves completely into Aquarius, which it will do, I think, I think something like December. Then a Missio is it's another of the quadrograms that has to do with loss or kind of cutting back. Now, very often this is sort of financial loss. So this is kind of perhaps saying, to look at earned income and what's not been so successful so far in terms of financial reward. So let's just read a couple of the keywords here for a Missio. So this is transience, loss, breakups, separations, what is unattainable or just out of reach, as well as to reject, leave, decline, lose, or be stranded. It can also be self-destructiveness, theft, and financial ruin. So I think this is really, helping you telling you to kind of get clear about what hasn't worked, in the past when it comes to different career options, different types of jobs or work. That's one way to look at this. The other way is to consider perhaps the relationship aspect. What has brought about loss. So again, looking at one-to-one relationships and your connection to the collective, to see what is kind of brought you support and built you up, and then on the other hand, what has just ended up making you feel less than worthy, or just hasn't worked out for whatever reason. And I think letting go of that, it might also be that your attitude when it comes to these particular limitations or losses needs to shift. After all, we are talking about the Gemini Sagittarius axis, which is all about perspectives, attitudes, information, wisdom, that kind of thing. So maybe it's about pivoting in terms of seeing past losses or failures in a different light. And by doing that, you will come into a time of major abundance. Interesting that we've got the same quadrigram echoed in the 8th house, which is about joint resources that we have with significant others. So it could be that when it comes to past failures or losses, particularly if they involved joint ventures of some kind, or kind of joint investments, or whatever the case may be, that it was simply the wrong partner, or that you were viewing the situation too negatively. You were kind of making generalizations about one particular partnership or event or sort of venture, that kind of thing, and not to necessarily then tar everything with the same brush. So it does seem as though good fortune and abundance can come from joint ventures of some kind. Now, these joint ventures could be simply a loan from the bank. This is loans. It's also tax, so you might get a tax rebate or help from the government, like some kind of grant that would enable you to then move in a new direction career-wise. It could also be an inheritance of some kind, because we do have Fortuna Minor in the 4th house, so this could be support, whether moral or financial, from family. It could be the sale of a property, even a family home. It could be an inheritance. It could also be that you get married to somebody who is financially well off, and this allows you the freedom to kind of set up in an area of business that you've always wanted to, but you never had the means. But definitely I see gain through partnerships with other people. So that's really positive. I'm just going to read you this again so that you get a real sense of the outcome of the reading, which is really positive. So Fortuna Major again is great fortune, good luck, chance or serendipity. It's also power, effortless success, social mobility. So social mobility could come through this significant partnership. Winning disposition, victory, inner strength, and natural charisma. So it's almost as though the kind of switch goes on in you, Capricorn, where everything starts to kind of go your way. And it's really interesting actually that we've got Jupiter, which is currently going through the sign of Capricorn, which is about expansion. It's currently retrograde, so it could signal gain from past, efforts or kind of work, or where you've been good to other people, and kind of coming back now, you're sort of getting rewarded for good deeds, for example. But yes, I just want to emphasize that this is, a really positive reading. An outcome, it just might mean a little bit of adjustments as far as this is concerned, a bit of a clearing out, managing the passions or the sort of the reactions when it comes to, or perceptions, even attitudes when it comes to self-expression, or stuff coming in. So pivoting there, and then visioning how you see past losses, breakups, separations, and restrictions, and with that moving in a much more positive and very clear focused direction, which is wonderful. So I'm going to leave it there. I hope this has been helpful and useful. I'd love to hear your comments, so do pop a comment in the box below if this has been helpful or it's resonated. I will be doing geoscopes for the upcoming 2 eclipses that start with the solar eclipse in June, so look out for those. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the best, many new full moon blessings, and I'll catch you again in a couple of weeks.